When Christina was chasing me, the whole school went silent. No one dared to tell me. She'd already dated all the cute guys around. She put on this bubbly, friendly act. Made me fall for her little by little. Until a few months later, she got bored and stopped pretending. Just like she sweet-talked me. She moved on to sweet-talk the new transfer student. Babe, I've never dated anyone. They can all vouch for it. You're my first love. When I walked in on them, everyone thought I'd lose it. Thought I'd cling on. But I didn't. Because at that moment, Christina's sister was playing her own games with me. This powerful woman who could shake the ground with a single step. She had just sent me a text. So, Vincent, after all that, you're saying you don't want to own up to what happened that night? When I got to my part-time job at the restaurant, I ran into Christina. Not great timing since she wasn't alone. Besides her close friends, there was this surprisingly handsome guy with her. This was the second month of Christina giving me the cold shoulder. We'd been together less than 6 months. She was clearly over it. I could feel her drifting away, and I'd heard whispers she was interested in a new guy, probably the one she brought today. Vincent, I swear I'm not lying. Christina's never dated anyone. Yeah, I'll bet on it. Christina's been single for 20 years. I let out a sarcastic laugh. I knew this dialogue way too well. Back when Christina was chasing me, her friends said the same stuff. Babe, I've never dated anyone. They can all vouch for it. You're my first love. Christina just pulled the guy into her arms. Exactly like when she sweet-talked me, holding him close. But the guy shyly protested. They're all your best friends. Of course, they'd say that. So what would it take for you to believe me? I swear, if I'm lying, let me be struck by lightning now. Before Christina could finish her oath, the guy quickly covered her mouth. Don't swear like that. I believe you. You're sweet. Christina was smug. Well, give me a kiss then? Cheers erupted. He blushed and gave her a quick peck. She held his face and gave him a deep kiss back. In the midst of all this, someone suddenly and nervously shouted, Vincent? Christina instinctively pushed the guy away. She turned and met my gaze. Everyone was staring at me. Christina's friends looked worried, like they were afraid I'd throw a fit, causing a scene. It was awkward for everyone, but not for me. I even gave them a small smile, then walked over and put the menu on the table. Order when you're ready. I've got to get back to work. And with that, I turned and went to change into my work uniform. The table fell silent, my calmness taking everyone by surprise. After all, they didn't know. When Christina started being distant, someone clued me in on the truth. She was just a flirty, wild rich girl. The lively, friendly Christina who'd never flirt lightly with guys was all an act. Christina and her crew didn't stick around long. When leaving, her friend said, I thought Vincent would throw a fit when he saw you today. He's calm to the point of being strange. Maybe he's plotting something big. Does it even matter? Christina seemed indifferent, letting out a cold laugh. Is there really anything money can't fix? Well, that's bold. Careful, girl. If your sister finds out, she'll lay the law on you. Christina frowned. Please, let's not bring up my sister. Okay? But really, hasn't your sister had any guys all these years? Never seen one. Such a waste of her looks and great body. I stood at a distance, a smirk creeping up my lips. Sure, she's got looks and all. But is it a waste? Not really. Christina's parents died young. She was raised by her sister Amy, who's 6 years older. With the wisdom and influence of an older sister, Christina admires and fears her. I wasn't supposed to have anything to do with her sister Amy, but the other night, Amy and I ended up together. When Christina was busy with her new guy, Amy was texting me. At first, I replied a bit. Afterward, I ignored her messages. Her last text read, So, Vincent, what's with all these words if you don't want to take responsibility for what happened that night? I changed back to my work clothes, ready to end my shift. I stood at the sink, my head pounding. Amy might have been drunk, but I wasn't all that innocent. It was a mix of impulses and ulterior motives from my side. Acting without thinking will always lead to big messes. What took me aback was Amy's insistence on responsibility. How laughable, considering every guy Christina dated was a first love she'd discard as soon as she was bored. But her sister wants something solid from me? I grabbed my phone and shot back. I don't owe anyone anything. The chat bubble said she was typing for what seemed like ages. Finally, Amy's reply came through. But, Vincent, it was my first time. I need this. My head went blank, almost bursting at the absurdity. Deleting Amy's contact, I blocked her number too. As I reached the dorm building, Christina was seeing off her new boyfriend. They lingered long downstairs before he reluctantly went up. As I walked closer, Christina, who was about to leave, called out to me. Vincent, there's something I've been meaning to straighten out with you. Okay, go ahead. I really did like you back then. But I heard that you're not into girls from our kind of background, so I had to lie. Christina was surprisingly upfront. I smiled, thinking back to that ridiculous night with Amy. Most of the anger and bitterness I had towards Christina had faded. Let's just leave it at that and end things once and for all. Vincent, I really did like you. Christina switched back to her usual passionate and affectionate self. Out of all the boyfriends I've had, you're the one I care about the most. You're also the one I chased the longest and dated the longest. I'm just feeling a bit bored, but I don't want to break up with you. I interrupted her, saying, let's end it anyway. I'm heading back to the dorm. Christina frowned and took a step closer, the scent of her perfume lingering. Vincent, you don't seem angry or jealous at all today. It makes me wonder if you ever liked me these past few months. I gave her one last look without responding. Christina might never know how much it hurt. When she started with the silent treatment or when people told me she had been lying from the start, claiming she dated all the cute guys at school. How many tears did I shed? And how many times did my heart break? If I hadn't truly cared, how could my heart have hurt so much? But Christina doesn't deserve to know that. She doesn't deserve to know that I genuinely liked her. On Saturday afternoon, when I was at my part-time job at the restaurant, the manager came over to me. Vincent, someone's looking for you outside. I looked out to see Amy's car. My heart almost jumped out of my chest. I set down the tray and ran out. Amy's car was so eye-catching. No wonder the manager was so polite earlier. The place was near school. What if Christina found out? But why was I worried about that? She didn't worry about me finding out when she was being all indecisive with other guys. That thought calmed me down a bit, but the curious glances from passersby still made me nervous. Amy probably came straight from work, wearing a smart suit and elegant glasses. She looked every bit the corporate powerhouse, nothing like the clingy woman from that night. When I looked at her, my face felt hot, and I quickly looked away and entered the car. Aren't you working? I asked. I already got you some time off, she replied. Won't they dock my pay? Amy pushed her glasses up, her voice a bit firmer. I wouldn't mind waiting here until you finish. I had no choice but to get in the car. As soon as the door closed, Amy raised the partition to the back seat, took off her glasses, and put them in the storage compartment. She turned to me. Feeling better? Any discomfort? My face turned crimson, remembering that night when Amy, under the influence of alcohol, lost control, and it was my first time too. The way she personally cared for me, it was anything but what you'd expect from a tough, abstinent woman. I'm all right now, I said, gazing out the window, lightly biting my lip. You should still rest for a few more days, she insisted. I don't want to, I quickly replied, surprising myself with the childlike tone. Angry? Asked Amy, suddenly turning me towards her, holding my shoulder. Why did you delete my contact and block my number? I lowered my head, my lashes trembling. Again, I bit my lip harder this time. Let's pretend that night never happened. I acted impulsively. If you're mad, I can apologize. What are you apologizing for? Amy seemed a bit frustrated. She loosened her scarf and unbuttoned her shirt, revealing a mark I had left on her collarbone. My eyes flickered, taking a quick glance. Amy's figure was something else. Comparing Christina to her was pointless. A spoiled girl against a woman who knows her power just isn't comparable. Amy's curves were enchanting. Never mind, Amy said, letting go and leaning back, closing her eyes. Have dinner with me tonight. If you do, I won't bother you again. Really? Couldn't help but ask. Amy nodded, I promise. but halfway through dinner we somehow ended up kissing again. If the last time was me acting foolishly to get back at Christina, this time was just me being attracted to Amy. I almost suspected she had put something into the wine, as if her opening the collar a bit and rolling up her sleeves were enough to make my head spin. When she pulled me onto the table and parted my legs, all I could picture were those iconic scenes from dramas. But when she seriously knelt down, I panicked. Amy. My throat felt tight and hoarse. Instinctively, I tried to close my legs, but she held my ankles. Amy, no, we can't, I stammered. Can't do what? She looked up slightly amused. I was speechless, feeling my face flush redder than a boiled shrimp. But Amy quickly returned to a serious demeanor, making me doubt myself. Maybe she just wanted to help me relax, and it's my dirty mind imagining things? In my moment of distraction, she slipped my underwear down with her long fingers. I covered my face with my hands, biting my lip and peeking through my fingers at Amy. The soft light in the restaurant was like moonlight over the hills. From this angle, I could see her focused gaze and refined profile. Her hands applied a bit more pressure, and I couldn't hold back a soft sound. The stillness of the room amplified even the slightest breath, until suddenly voices came from outside. Is my sister in there? She said not to disturb her. Not even me. Yes. Christina shouted from outside. Amy. The noise startled me, and I instinctively looked out. Shadows cast across the floor to ceiling windows showed Christina and a guard. Could Christina see us? I shook with tension, and I called Amy in a low, shaky voice. Amy. You do seem more relaxed, she replied, leaning in as warm kisses descended like a wave. I can't pinpoint the second it happened, but I found myself clinging tightly to her neck. Outside, Christina's voice was getting louder. I had to go and sort her out. Amy gave me a reassuring kiss, then stepped out, and soon, everything was quiet again. I almost collapsed onto the dining table, realizing I was drenched in sweat. Amy came back quickly. Vincent, why don't you stay the night? I gently pushed her away. Christina's unexpected arrival had sobered me up. Some mistakes can only be made once. Make them again and you're jumping into a pit. We agreed it was just dinner. You were the one who kissed me first. Amy looked down at me. Her expression was calm and composed, yet you could feel she was in control. It was natural for her. I felt a wave of chaotic emotions. I wasn't sure if it was just me or if everyone my age felt this way. When something happens, I just want to run. Like hiding will make everything okay. Sorry, just pretend I'm drunk. I avoided her gaze, ready to leave. Amy didn't stop me this time. As I walked out of the restaurant, I turned to look back. There she was, standing alone under the light, looking inexplicably lonely. My heart felt a pang, but I still turned away and left. Amy is Christina's sister. I dated Christina for 6 months. Now I've gotten mixed up with Amy. I took a deep breath and made up my mind. This has to stop. I can't keep going down this reckless path. Amy, to her credit, kept her promise. After that night, she never sought me out again. I continued working my part-time shifts at the restaurant. The manager tried asking me about it a few times, but when I said nothing, he stopped prying. Christina didn't stay with that guy for long. Soon, she moved on to someone else. This time, her boyfriend looked quite young and timid, like me with a not-so-great background. Christina seemed to be acting very warm and generous, maybe trying not to scare him off. At first, seeing her like this made me feel a bit off. But soon, I realized how laughable it was. Christina may never understand that relationships built on lies never last. They leave eventually, and someone like her might never truly deserve someone's heart. Watching the new guy, I couldn't help but see a bit of my old self in him. I felt some sympathy. So when he headed for the restroom, I stopped him. What's up? He asked, looking at me curiously. Christina is probably after you, right? His face turned red as he nodded. Did she say you're her first love? I asked. He shook his head. No, she said she's been in one relationship before. Why are you asking? Do you like her too? I shook my head. I just see her bring different guys around, so I wanted to warn you not to fall for it. Just as he was about to respond, His expression changed. Christina. He looked past me, ran over and held Christina's arm. What's up? He asked her. That waiter said some weird things. Do you know him? Christina probably shook her head. Why did he tell me to be careful and not get tricked by you? I paused for a moment, finding it amusing and a bit self-deprecating. Respecting other people's choices and not interfering in their affairs, it's a lesson I never seem to learn. Do you think he likes you and just wants to cause trouble? Christina, you go back first. I'll have a word with him. The guy obediently left. Christina walked over to me, leaning against the wall with a tired smile. It reminded me of how cheerful and enthusiastic she was when she used to chase me. Jealous? Huh? She reached out, trying to pinch my cheek. I avoided her touch. I didn't want to engage in conversation and turned to leave. But Christina called after me, Vincent. I've been thinking about you from time to time. Do you want to get back together? You're overthinking. I just didn't want him to be deceived like I was. Christina chuckled. Vincent, nothing to be embarrassed about. It's okay. Think whatever you want. I said. I have to work. I'll wait for you to get off. I ignored her. But when my shift ended and I changed out of my uniform, I saw Christina standing outside the restaurant with her sister, Amy. In front of Amy, Christina seemed deflated, like a student being told off. Amy stood there, expressionless, her presence intimidating. My heart skipped a beat. This Amy, the one who cared for me and earnestly checked on my health, didn't seem like the same person. I turned to leave. Christina, however, spotted me. Vincent, she said, walking over, pulling me towards Amy. I meant what I said earlier. Amy's voice was calm. Which time aren't you sincere? This time it's different, Christina insisted. I really like Vincent the most. Amy looked at me. Vincent, you tell her. I couldn't meet Amy's eyes. I stared at my shoes. I don't like her and I don't want to get back together. Vincent. Christina was desperate. Amy's voice softened. All right, no need to shout. If he doesn't want to reconcile, respect his choice. Stop harassing him. Christina wanted to argue. Amy's tone turned cold. What? Now you're not listening to me either? Let him go. She released me. I glanced at Amy. I'm heading back to campus. It's too late. Let the driver give you a ride. No need. It's not far. I can walk, I replied. Amy didn't press further. I took the opportunity to leave quickly. Near campus, a text from an unknown number buzzed my phone. Vincent, this isn't over between us. I drew a sharp breath. Christina's background had always made her extremely proud. My repeated rejections must have triggered her competitive and possessive nature. I wasn't afraid of Christina, but if she kept this up, it would be a hassle. After all, I'm just a regular college student, still needing to work part-time to support myself. Frustrated, I spotted a car parked by the campus entrance. It was Amy's. The anger I'd held all night started to boil over. Deciding to confront it, I walked directly to the car and got in, without asking where she was going. She didn't ask me where I wanted to go. The car drove smoothly for a long time. Then Amy raised the partition in the back and forcefully kissed me. I struggled a bit at first, but soon I softened under her kiss. Her fingers wove into my thick hair, gripping the back of my head. The kiss deepened, almost taking my breath away. Amy finally let me go. Still feeling uncomfortable? My cheeks were burning, and I turned to look out the window. What? There, does it still hurt? It doesn't hurt anymore. This time I'll be gentler. I bit my slightly swollen lips and, after a while, softly said, After a shower, I came out with my mind a bit foggy. Maybe it was just because she was my first woman. A guy always feels a bit different about his first. Or maybe I did it out of spite to get back at Christina. Whatever the reason, it seemed like I didn't want to admit that I had feelings for Amy. But this time, nothing hurt. Amy was patient and gentle. She kissed every inch of me. In the end, it was me who couldn't resist, and Amy melded deeply with me. The night was deep. Moonlight spilled everywhere. In the ebb and flow of the night, there was just a misty white, like a dusty old book finally opened by curious hands, reading every hidden, tender page. Soon, the book's secrets were deeply understood and cherished. But at the peak moment, Amy suddenly stopped. I opened my eyes wide, a bit dazed and confused. Vincent, will you take responsibility this time? I instinctively wanted to shake my head. Vincent, will you be responsible for me this time? She kissed me again, breath fluttering over my ear, neck, collarbone, every sensitive spot. I couldn't handle it and just nodded wildly. But Amy insisted I say it out loud. Vincent, I'll teach you how to answer. Vincent will be responsible for Amy. I echoed her, my voice trembling. Vincent will be responsible for Amy. Only then was she satisfied, and she swallowed my broken sobs. The long night began to sway again with the moonlight, stretching as if it would never see daylight. When I woke up the next day, Amy wasn't in the room. I got up to wash and change before heading downstairs. But I didn't expect to see a few people sitting in the living room. Vincent, Christina was completely shocked. She dropped the teacup, and it shattered on the floor. Her friends exchanged confused glances. Amy was calm, sitting on the sofa unfazed. She waved me over. Vincent, come here. My feet were as if nailed to the spot. All I heard was the wind like buzzing in my ears. I stood on the stairs, staring blankly at Amy, not understanding her intentions. Amy calmly got up and walked up the stairs to me. Don't be afraid. I've got it handled. She took my hand and led me downstairs. Christina was still in shock, staring blankly at Amy and me. The spilled tea spread across the floor. Amy called a maid to clean up and got 2 fresh cups of tea. Don't you think you owe me an explanation? Christina's voice rose sharply. Amy sat beside me and handed me tea. Have some water. What do you want to eat? I'll have the kitchen prepare it. I shook my head, holding the teacup with Amy's arm loosely around me. She finally looked calmly at Christina. What's the fuss? Let's sit and talk it over. Christina stood stubbornly, refusing to sit. Amy didn't bother with her. You caused that mess before, remember? You secretly schemed with people to spread some ridiculous gag order. The honest students at your school fear you and obey. But those rich boys you dated? No way they'd tolerate that. Christina's face paled a few shades. When you caused trouble at school, you expected me to clean it up. Even with your family's power, in front of a room of elders, it was our fault. That night I was drunk, and it just so happened Vincent was working at the restaurant. He's a kind guy and didn't want anything happening to me, so he brought me home. Amy spoke with confidence. It was my first time drunk. I was out of control and slept with him. It was a mistake on my part, and I must take responsibility. After he graduates, we'll get married. Amy looked at Christina. I was going to find the right time to tell you, but since you're here, let's clear things up. Christina's face turned green. Aren't you pushing it a bit? I lowered my head further, hiding my face behind the cup. Actually, only half of what Amy said was true. She did get drunk, but she didn't take advantage of me. At that time, I was filled with resentment toward Christina. A moment of madness made me do something foolish. But Amy covered it all, taking the blame. Christina was furious, pacing in circles. He's my ex-boyfriend. We just broke up a few days ago. There are so many guys who like you. Why are you competing with me over him? If Vincent likes you and you both feel the same, I wouldn't even try to compete. But you heard him that night. He won't get back together with you. Even if we don't get back together, he's still my ex. Just because he's your ex doesn't mean he belongs to you forever. But you know, I still have feelings for him. He just doesn't feel the same way anymore. He's just mad at me right now, that's all. Christina suddenly looked at me like she had found a lifeline. Vincent, are you really just mad at me? Is that it? I'm your first love, the first woman you ever liked. I don't believe I'm really out of your heart. I took a deep breath. I finally decided to be honest. Amy tried to take all the blame, but I can't just ignore it. Christina, when I first found out you were lying to me, I was really mad. There was a lot of resentment. That night, when I ran into Amy drunk, I was initially just concerned and took her home. But what happened after was my choice, not her fault. If you want to blame someone, blame me. Amy is innocent. Christina was completely stunned. What are you saying? You made the first move? Yes, I did. I slowly stood up and gave a small smile. It's childish, I know. I hated you a lot back then and wanted revenge. I mustered up the courage to face Amy. About that night, I need to apologize. I took advantage of the situation. It's not your fault. You don't owe me anything, and I never wanted you to feel responsible. I forced a smile. Also, I'm not looking to get married so soon, so just forget about what was mentioned earlier. After saying that, I didn't dare stay another second. I headed back to school. As I turned away, Amy grabbed my wrist. Vincent, when a woman is really drunk, she can't do anything. I widened my eyes slowly. Amy? She ruffled my hair. Get something to eat, and leave the rest to me. Dazed, I followed the servant out of the room. Christina collapsed on the couch, looking pale. Her friends all sat there quietly, not daring to make a sound. Amy cleared her throat. What's done is done. There's no changing it now. Amy looked around at the group of girls. They got up immediately. We'll do as you say. Christina pointed at a few of them. You all. But in the end, she lowered her hand, closed her eyes, and shook her head. She was the one who made the first mistake. She secretly rearranged her sister's contacts to keep quiet, all just to chase a college student, which caused quite a stir about her family for a while. Amy had her hands full, cleaning up the mess. So now, she just watched as her ex became her sister's fiancé, not daring to say a word. She regretted it. If she hadn't played those tricks back then, would things be different now? Christina suddenly remembered the time she took Vincent to lunch, and they ran into Amy. Amy was the one who added Vincent first. At the time, she thought it was just her sister backing her up. But now, looking back, maybe Amy noticed Vincent from that moment on. After all, her sister was always so serene and reserved, like a monk. The fact that she would reach out to any guy meant he was exceptional. Why hadn't she realized that then? Christina looked at her sister, feeling a bit sour. Compared to her sister, she felt like a nobody, getting by to survive. Besides, she'd always been overshadowed by her sister's accomplishments. Amy was like a mom and a sis wrapped in one package. It was natural to respect and fear her. Now, would she really go against her sister? Honestly, her sister was to blame too. But Christina felt too scared and a little unwilling. They was upheld by just the two sisters. If they quarreled, people would laugh even more. Plus, her sister had been alone for so long. To finally find someone she liked, Christina rubbed her nose. Whatever. Can't let sis stay single forever. Their parents would be upset too if they knew from beyond. Her sister took care of her, and she never did anything for her sister or the Liu family. Now, maybe she should do something to make her sister happy for once. Christina thought and sighed. She looked toward the dining area one more time. Vincent was sitting at the table, eating. Christina forced herself to look away. It was her own mess, no one else to blame. She stood up and said, I'll listen to you too. Amy seemed a bit surprised. It took a moment before she walked over and patted Christina's shoulder. You always wanted that motorcycle. I thought it was too flashy, so I wouldn't let you buy it. For your birthday this year, I'll gift it to you. Christina's eyes immediately teared up a little. Fair enough, bad luck in love but a win elsewhere. And it's what she's been dreaming of, limited edition too. Only a few dozen worldwide. Christina felt a little better. As she left with her friends, she couldn't help but look back. Amy was there beside Vincent, helping him with food. Vincent still seemed a little distant from Amy. But as Amy turned around, he quickly sneaked a glance at her. He lowered his head and smiled to himself. Christina wondered. Back when they dated, Vincent used to sneak peeks at her like that, didn't he? But from now on, those eyes wouldn't be looking at her anymore. Not long after she and Amy made their relationship official, she had to leave the country for a work trip. It was going to be a long trip, a full 2 months. I felt a bit reluctant, but I knew work is important. When I saw Amy off, it didn't hit me much. But as her return day drew near, I became extremely anxious. The night before Amy came back, I had a video call with her and then went to bed. But that whole night, I was tangled up in crazy dreams. In the dreams, I seemed to relive that moment in the restaurant, when she gently looked after me. When I woke up, My clothes were all damp. My face went a bit red and my heart started racing. Slowly, I got out of bed, took a shower, and headed downstairs for breakfast. As soon as I got downstairs, there was Amy, looking like she just returned from a long journey. "You came back early?" Amy waved off all the house staff. She then walked over to me with purpose. "I missed you, so I changed my flight and flew in last night." Amy held me tightly. "Give me a sec. I'll take a shower and join you for breakfast," she said after giving me a lingering kiss. After she finished her shower, she came down in a deep blue silk pajama set, looking exceptionally fresh and beautiful. I sat at the table, feeling my face and heart heat up, avoiding her gaze. Took me a moment to steady myself. "Amy, can you pour me some juice, please?" Of course, she obliged. Amy looked at me, and her eyes quickly turned intense. She suddenly perched herself on the massive dining table in front of me, wrapping her legs around my waist. "Vincent," Amy whispered as she leaned down to kiss me. I tilted my head up to meet her, wrapping my arms around her neck, pulling her close. My breath hitched immediately. My fingers unconsciously tangled in her silky hair. This time, I didn't push her away. I pulled her even closer. The hem of her silk pajamas brushed against her elegant jawline. I arched my long neck, making a graceful curve. Outside, the snow fell softly, blanketing the world. Amy looked up at me, her eyes full of passion. She said, "This guidebook is truly a delight to read, my Vincent."